Hello, authors and readers, and welcome to my weekly YouTube video. This week's video is the first in my series of novel deep dives, where I invite a guest or several to chat with me about a recent novel that demonstrates a specific fiction writing skill or technique. We'll explore how the author did it and accomplish the skill or technique with an aim for other authors to see how it worked so that they may be able to use this in their own writing. Spoiler alert, all of my novel deep dive videos will contain serious spoilers for the book being discussed. So if you have not yet read Kill Your Darlings by Peter Swanson and you don't want to have it spoiled, pause this video, go read the book, and then come back. I used to get annoyed with my book club friends because we would have a whole month to read a book, and then somebody would be like, I didn't finish, don't do any spoilers. And I'm like, this is the only time when we're going to talk about this book. I want to talk about this book, and you're telling me I can't? So this is a spoiler zone. I'll try not to spoil other books and novels during the course of this one, but this month we are definitely spoiling Kill Your Darlings. The specific writing technique that we're exploring this month is writing a novel with a reverse timeline. I've been obsessed with reverse timelines since the Seinfeld episode with the wedding that was completely in reverse. I made a murder board when I watched the movie Memento, trying to figure out when stuff was happening. And I have a seriously detailed timeline of all of Ursula's lives and deaths in Kate Atkinson's Life After Life. What was the turning point? This has been an obsession for a long time. My guest today to talk about this with me is Sophia Chang. Sophia, why don't you tell folks a bit about yourself and what you've been writing?
Hello, Miranda and everyone. I'm so happy to be here. I am a Reese's Book Club Lit Up Fellow, and I am the host of the Sophia Chang Show podcast, Books, Biceps, No BS. So come on over and check that out. I teach writing with Daniel David Wallace, and I myself am an agented author who writes genre blended, raw, and emotional speculative sci-fi love stories.
Wow, that's amazing. We will drop the link for her podcast and Sophia's website down below in the comments. So please check it out and support Sophia. Yes, absolutely. So, Kill Your Darlings is a murder mystery that's told in reverse. The main character, Wendy, states in the very first line that she is trying to kill her husband, Tom. He's also a POV character. And by the end of the 2023 current timeline scenes, Tom is dead, Wendy is responsible. So it's a mystery, but it's not a whodunit because we know who did it. It was Wendy. But much like Natasha Lyonne's Poker Face series, it's more of a whydunit, right? Who doesn't love Poker Face? We know that Wendy killed Tom. We don't know why, but we pick that up as we're going backwards through the timeline. But there are a bunch of other fun story questions that are presented as breadcrumbs, and we'll dissect those more. The big story question is, why did Wendy kill Tom? But another question is, will Wendy get away with it? But readers may not realize that this question is actually going to be answered because when I went backwards and I'm like, we'll never know, we don't get to see the future, but we do find out. And I think we find out in a pretty satisfying way. So this novel structure is not completely in reverse. So like the Seinfeld episode, each scene was right before the other scene. This one, we have some chunks. So in 2023, we have a series of scenes that are actually moving forward, but then we jump back to 2018, and then we jump back to 2013. But then some of those years, there's some jumping around in there too. And I know this was done to try and make it the most compelling, but it was a little confusing, especially if you're listening to it on audiobook that I did and Sophia did too the first time. The second time when I went through to dissect it and come up with all my notes, I did use a paper copy to try and track it. So Sophia, did you know when you started reading it that Kill Your Darlings was in reverse chronological order?
That is why I read it. So I was super excited about this book because I love anytime anything. One of my books is also time jumpy. I just love it. I just thought it was so fantastic that I also happened to be reading it while you were reading. As I was like, we got to talk about this.
So when I read this, I had not read the blurb. I've read most everything that Peter Swanson has written for like a decade. And when I see it come up in the new releases in my library on the Libby app, I just added the audiobook. And it was like a pre-release. So they didn't even have the cover yet. So I was on the list. It shows up. I start reading it and I'm in 2023. And then it wasn't until 2013 that I'm like, wait, we keep going backwards. I don't know what's going on. I actually went to the table of contents for this book and I'm like, wait, this is going backward. But, it was 2023 and then it was 2018. And I'm like, well, that's a flashback. But then we were 2013 and I'm like, we're never coming back. So I went to the table of contents to figure this out. And then I'm like, oh, then I needed to re-listen to 2023 and made a list of like, ooh, what are all these hints that we're dropping? Because that's my favorite. So speaking of the 2023 group of scenes, it's chock full with breadcrumbs, with mini mysteries and foreshadowing. What were some of them that you noticed when you went back that you're like, oh, that's going to be something?
So I'm visually disabled and I cannot do books anymore, which is like the biggest, cruelest irony you can bestow upon a
That
novelist.
is rough. Yeah.
It hurts. And so I have to do everything via audiobook. To me, I feel like sometimes you do miss things with audiobook. It's just a different processing auditory. And then I was just like, okay, I think I got the book. And then you were like, oh, I'm rereading it. I'm like, rereading it? What is this class? So I made myself go back and listen to the first chapter because I was like, uh-oh, I don't want to be the dunce. I think I'm always a big fan, whether the book is chronological or not chronological, is book ending. And what by that I mean, you start with either a setting or a motif or some kind of mention, even a line or a phrase in the first chapter that comes back in the final chapter. And in this case, it's the final chapter comes back in the first chapter since it's in reverse.
That's right. And it's Tom going down the stairs. The first line is she wants to push him down the stairs in their house. And then the ending of the first set of 2023 is when she pushes him down The Exorcist. It takes her a couple scenes to like get him on vacation to some better stairs with a better chance of murdering him because he survived the first one. I know, poor Tom, tough to kill. So some of the breadcrumbs that I wrote down, first of all, I thought that Graves as their family last name was hilarious foreshadowing because he ends up dead in the first chunk. Tom's drinking is clearly, and so I'm just like, well, he's drinking a whole lot. She may not need to kill him because he could do it himself. The method of death of pushing him down the stairs, that was foreshadowing from the first part of the chapter to the later. And then there's this hint about Tom's cheating on Wendy and he's interested in his new assistant, Emily. And then we find out a whole lot about Emily. I'm like, oh, why do we find out so much about Emily? Her legal name is Annabelle. Wendy wrote this book of poetry 20 years ago, and Emily's a big fan of it. Emily looks similar to Wendy and is Tom's type, and he compares them both to this same Moneypenny actress. And it's just like, there's a whole lot about Emily being Wendy's type, but her real name is Annabelle. But we don't find out why that's important until a lot later. Then we get this breadcrumb that Tom is writing a novel about punishment and a confessional, getting away with murder and living with guilt. And then Wendy sees this as breaking the pact. And I'm like, ooh, so what's the pact? What's going on? She's fantasizing about her life after Tom. Wendy plans a trip to Washington, D.C. to go to where they'd first kissed on the Exorcist steps. There's some foreshadowing for later when they go there. And then Tom drops this big clue that says that their chaperone, Miss Ackles, had told them we're being watched. Wendy doesn't remember it. When we get to like the first chapters, we find out that Miss Ackles told Tom, never told Wendy. But she was just like, he's drunk, he's rambling, he's talking about this. Wendy compares taking Tom for an enjoyable trip as giving a fun experience before putting him down, like comparing it to when their cat Samsa got old. Let's take him for a fun vacation first. And so that kind of showed me she still was somewhat humane. I don't know. And then that ends with Wendy wondering what her new post-Tom world would bring. And that's the question of, will she get away with this? Will she be able to have her happy single life that she had in her fantasy world? Or is she going to get caught and pay the consequences? So those are all breadcrumbs that I thought were stuffed into the 2023 chapters, but I had to go back. And then there's also this friend, Judy, who lives in Washington, D.C., but that she specifically does not want to visit. And then I was like, what's this doing here? And then I circled it, but I found it again later. It all tied up. So we were looking for like Chekhov's old school friend. Yes. One of the most interesting aspects of the reverse timeline was seeing Wendy and Tom's character arcs in reverse. Did you think they became more or less likable as you went back, and why?
So I already was on board with Wendy from day dog because I love women who kill bad men. Women who murder is probably my favorite kind of women. And so anytime I have that in a book, women are murdering, sign me up. And there's been nice flush of books that actually do have that topic. So I was on board with her right away. With Tom, I was ready to kill him since 1984 into 2023. I was very happy to see her. Like the first time she tried to push him, like, yeah, oh. And then the second time,
Oh,
oh. And then the last time I was like, yeah, we finally did it. It's funny because I was so signed on that may be perhaps why, as it went on, I was like, oh, she's less sympathetic. But I was still always with her. She had a lot of good reasons for everything that she did. I mean, this is a spoiler zone, right? So we can just
yeah, no, spoil everything. Go
yeah.
ahead, say why.
Her background was actually extremely understandable. I related to it very much. And so I'm like, well, of course, everything that happened makes sense. And she comes from a legacy of women who murder bad men. So I'm like, I was almost proud of her. I was like, yeah, you carry that on. You free yourself. You go, girl.
The best part was when she overheard her mom apologizing after she drowned her dad in his bathtub. And it's just like the old you would have understood. I almost thought that Wendy was going to say that to Tom. It's just like the old you would understand. We can't be, yappity yapping, typing tell all novels. No, no, you've got to go. So I was not quite as on board with Wendy at the beginning, but I became more sympathetic with her as we went on. So Tom, he was a drunk, he was a pompous, philandering bore. Yuck. He was consumed
Yeah.
by guilt, and I assumed that calculating Wendy had roped him into the murder that had then consumed him with guilt. So I did have a modicum of pity and compassion for Tom. Wendy seemed cold and calculating, lacked some empathy. So I did think that she was kind of viewing Tom as an obstacle that she wants out of her life. And then she finds his confessional novel and she sees him as a threat and she's going to put him down like Samsa. And as a pet owner, I know that's a gutting decision to make.
Yeah.
As a spouse, maybe also. But as the story goes on, we see that Tom had actually instigated the let's kill Bryce for $10 million plan. And it wasn't Wendy's idea. Tom was an entitled ass in his 20s, and he was a pretentious clown when he was 15, and Wendy was moving away. So as the story goes, I liked Wendy more and more. She wasn't really acting with malice. She grew up without power, and she had to make decisions to keep herself and her mom and her brothers safe and economically secure. She did conspire with Tom to kill her first husband, Bryce, for $10 million that she used to pay off her mom's house and her brother's college loans. She wasn't using it to live
Yeah.
large. She gave up things that she loved, like the
Yeah.
poetry, when she thought it could be a threat to her safety. And so she gave up her love of writing because she thought it was too confessional and she won a prize because her poetry was so confessional. And then here's Tom, no talent hack, writing a tell all novel. You've got to go. By this point, I almost wanted Wendy to get away with Tom's murder, but she had a flaw in her plan. And so we will talk about that a little bit more later. So this story covers 41-year time span, starting when the characters are 55 and then going backwards to when they're 14 and started dating during an 8th grade class trip. This goes against a lot of thrillers and suspense that employ a compressed time frame, like to the TV series 24, where Kiefer Sutherland goes an entire day and never goes to the bathroom. The bladder on that man, it's impressive. What impact did this long time frame have on the story and the pacing?
I did have this marketed to me as a thriller as well, and I know him as a thriller writer, and so I think with me, I'm very used to the pacing, the Frida
Yes,
McFadden's, the like, oh my goodness, every a twist,
everybody is closing in.
every second you turn one way or another. And so I think this did do something to the pacing a little bit because we already knew everything that was going to happen. They bring it up in one chapter, and then in the next chapter, they'll show the scene. So we're told it and then we're shown the actual scene. And because it's told in this direction, it can feel flashbacky. It can feel like, well, I've already heard this before. So I think it wasn't as pacey as the thrillers that I'm used to as a result of this reverse. And I do think there are ways, because I want to say this really importantly, because I don't want writers watching this say, oh, I can never do this. Not at all. There are ways to do this and still keep it pacey, but I do think there were places of repetition that perhaps dragged.
Yes, agreed. Yeah, because this is the problem because they tell us first and then they show it. And it's just like the telling is the hinting and the foreshadowing, but it is repetitive. There is some repetition. It's just like, ooh, how many times do we have to hear that they met at a writers' conference in Ohio in 1991? But That was a lie. They did go to several because there was the fake one where they pretended to meet each other for the first time, but they really met in 1990 at a conference that she lied to a friend and said she wasn't going to go to, but she went to. And so, yeah, that was fun. But it was like I needed to get out my timeline and figure out what's going on with that. Were there any parts that you felt that there were like years that they spent time on that they lagged or dragged or that they didn't really need? Or did you think that they needed the years that they covered? Because let's be clear, they did not cover all 41 of those years. They jumped in like 5-year chunks and stuff and landed on ones where they were planting some kind of clue. But did they all pay off for you? Or were some of them like, yeah, I could have done without that?
I did feel that way, especially the repetition ones that we were talking about. And there were actually some fun moments. Like I want to highlight the fact that my expectation may have been set up a little differently because in the very early chapter, she kills another guy. So I'm like, ooh, is this going to be a story of couples who kill? And are they going to just keep killing and we get to get one more death each time? And so I think that set up a little bit of an
That would be
expectation.
a different novel that I would also read.
I
Yeah.
would read that. Yes. So I thought it was going to be kind of a serial thing. And so then when it kind of slowed later on, I did find myself waiting for something like that to happen again.
Well, and I think they would have had to move around maybe a little bit more. So what I thought, it's like one of their first stops was in 2018 where they were having a shared 50th birthday party because they were born on the same day of the same year. And I'm like, well, that's
Interesting coincidence.
odd.
Yeah.
Okay. There was like a birthday twins twisty novel that I'd read a while before too. And I'm like, is this a thing? But the interesting part of that one is they talk about how they remet at 1991 at the conference in Ohio. So that was a clue. And then there's this one where Wendy tells Tom, you're not the only murderer. So I'm like, ooh, does that mean they were co-conspirators in a single murder? Or does that mean they've each killed somebody and they both know it? And the funny part, the ironic part that I liked about that was that they had both killed somebody else without telling each other.
Yes.
So I was
Yeah.
just like, well, that's amazing. I mean, because isn't it the couple who slay together stay together? Maybe they should have, shared.
That's what I thought this was going to be when they
I
set that
know.
up in the early.
But no, they were not. What was it?
They were
Nor
Mr. and Mrs. Smith. That's what I'm going.
Yes. No, and then there was the natural born killers one, but not these guys. No, they were secretly both offing people called Alex and Alexandra. And I'm just like, oh, okay. And then not telling each other. So then back in like 2013, that's when we get into the part about the drowning death of Tom's horrible boss. And we spend some time in that chapter, and Alex, the horrible boss, had seen Wendy leaving the shady Shoreview motel. And so I'm like, ooh, what is she killing him to hide? But really, it wasn't much. When we get back to the Shoreview motel, she paid off the PI with a brick of gold and he left town. I'm like, you don't kill somebody over that. Tom's having affairs every Tuesday, whatever.
I think that was my most annoyed, the most unlikable. It wasn't just, oh, I'm having an affair. It's the trope of the middle-aged man who's going after women who are the age of his granddaughter. It was just gross.
Well, and Emily is his actual daughter. Not that he knows it, but she is his daughter because that it
Hold on.
What? What? No, because that's why they talked about her legal name was Annabelle. Her name was Annabelle, which was the name of
That
the
she
daughter
gave, I see, that's the, okay. When I got to the part of her
and how
saying,
they looked alike. Remember how much they looked
I'm
alike?
going to name her Annabelle, it was too far apart. And
Okay,
I
so
think had it been in chronological, it probably would have stuck in my mind because I'm good at picking up foreshadowing. But because that was
see?
the first chapter, I'm like, I'm just getting to know these people. I don't know. So,
Well, this is something that I picked up the second time.
oh, see,
So
this makes it even more gross. You hit on your own daughter.
I know. That's why he has to
Gross.
go.
He
This is
does.
more reason that we got to push Tom down those stairs. He's hitting on his own daughter that he doesn't know that he had because he told her, don't call me. I'm a big shot. I'm a 14-year-old. But I do like that it was in there, but it was subtle. That's it. Yeah. So we find out that she actually killed Alex, his horrible boss, in hopes that he would take a promotion because He's happy to just be a drunk idiot, and she wants him to move up the corporate ladder, and then he doesn't take it anyway. I'd kill that guy for
Oh,
you.
he's
You don't
pointless.
even know. She hides it because she comes back from the lake and she gets her, as soon as the cops leave, she pulls her swimsuit out of the laundry room and folds up the towel and gets rid of all the fact that she went for an early morning swim with Alex. And part of it was because they had Jason, their teen son, who was in the house, and he was in his investigative phase. When we later meet Jason as an adult, he's in the I don't care about either of you anymore phase. And as a parent, that's relatable too. So then we're going backwards in time. So Stan, the PI from Texas, is investigating whether Tom and or Wendy had anything to do with Bryce's death. So Bryce was Wendy's first husband. He left behind $10 million that Wendy inherited. Tom's a drunk idiot who gives him way too much information and says such fabulous things as, "Oh, I've been to Texas," or whatever. So what are you saying?
Like, you just told him you didn't.
Yeah, I know. And so the interesting part that we get from Stan is he thinks that Alexandra, a young woman who was killed the same night as Bryce was killed, was a witness. We don't get back to that for another 10 years. But guess what? She was. And that this was the theory of Bryce's sister. But we don't get any more of that in the future timeline because Wendy gives him a gold brick and sends the PI on his way. "Hey, would you like this? It's worth some money." "Yes, I will take that." And I will say I found nothing. Then we are like 2011. When I first read through it, I'm like, why do we have this scene with Judy, Wendy's work friend, who was moving to DC? They go out to lunch and they see Tom out to lunch with somebody who's 15 years younger. So then in chapter 1 in 2023, "Oh, why don't we hook up with Wendy? Because Wendy knows that you're a philanderer and that I hate you. So I don't want to call attention to the fact that I'm in town with you the weekend that you die." Because at first I was just like, maybe we didn't know. I kind of liked it. 2009, young Jason goes missing. So their son keeps getting younger and younger. He was on a camping trip. He went missing. Tom and Wendy freak out. They think he might be dead. And then Tom makes a deal to end his current affair, because he's having yet another affair, with an ER nurse named Catalina, and he promises to stop drinking. Tom does not keep his promises. That's what's clear here, because his drinking accelerates. And we know that because we've been with him, and he doesn't stop cheating either. And so Tom doesn't even keep his promises to God. So just throw the whole man out. Then we jump back to 2005 and they move into their fancy new house, and Jason's a toddler, and Tom hooks up his computer and he gets on the internet. I guess he must have internet through his like new college that he's working for. And he looks up Alexandra, the woman who was stabbed to death the same night as Bryce's drowning. We're like, "Alexandra, is that the same person the PI was asking about?" Yes, it was. And so this is Tom, didn't have a name, and there's a hint that maybe she was an escort or something. Okay. So then we're just like, well, we don't know when that's going to tie in. Later. It ties in later. 2003, Wendy has her book of poems, and she wins a contract with a small press, and she won a prize. Her poetry was too confessional. She wins an award, and she vows to never write or publish poetry again. And she does it because she's afraid of spilling the secret. She was just afraid that all those poetry nerds were going to out her. And who knows, those poetry nerds,
They're deep. Yeah.
they are deep, because the reason she went to the writing conference in 1990 was because one of her friends from her poetry workshop had remembered that she had liked Tom Graves and had seen that Tom Graves was going to be there, because she remembered his name because she wrote the poem about the graveyard.
I mean, the TikTok generation, I don't think is reading that carefully.
I know. I don't know. Maybe I'm the only one with a murder board for this whole book. But that's why I kind of picked this one. And then, okay, we go back to 1998. Tom is cheating on Wendy with Ariel from church. And she's a minister. And then he tells her everything. So that's telling us Tom is no good with secrets. No, he's terrible. Then we're back to 1995 when they got married in Vegas. And rather than spending their wedding night at the hotel with Wendy, he goes out gambling. Yeah, whatever. And then in 1993, they stage a reunion for the first time in front of Wendy's editor friend, Becky. So this shows the getting back in touch with you slow romance starting at 5 months after Bryce's death. So we know from the 2018 that one of them had said, we reunited in 2011 or 1991. But really, their official one was 93 when they allowed other people to see it, because from 1991, they met each other and were in secret and were plotting Bryce's murder. 1992, we spent a lot of time there because that's when they plot Bryce's murder. And she has an alibi. She goes to some other writing conference. He goes down to Texas to kill some guy he's never met before. Alexandra sees it, kills her too. But he never tells Wendy. And then 1991, it's the conference where they actually ran into each other and start their affair. They're both with somebody else. She's married to Bryce, he's dating somebody. But we see Wendy's active imagination again because she has a fantasy life in which Bryce is dead. She gets all the money and then she gets to hang out with Tom, her first boyfriend. And we're like, Wendy, your fantasy life, not that great. It doesn't do you any favor.
Oh,
I
but I
know.
relate to that though. At that age, I probably exclusively lived in denial.
That could be. But then we go back a little farther. In 1984, Wendy's getting picked up at the airport from her unemployed, drunk, horrible dad. She'd been away from home because she had gone to her aunt's house in California to deliver a baby that she wanted to name Annabelle. That was Tom's child. She delivers the baby, she gives it up in California. This was Annabelle, 1984. And then when she gets home, her dad is railing and drunk, and then he mysteriously drowns in the bathtub. And she sees her mom apologize for doing it. So
I
we're like,
100% thought that Wendy killed her dad.
me too. Me too. That was one of my biggest surprises. It's like I thought for sure she started with her dad to protect her mom, but her mom was a good role model. We take care of problems here. We don't leave it to our children. And then we go back to the 8th grade class trip when they're 14 years old and she meets Tom and she sits next to him. And then there's all kinds of stuff. Miss Ackles tells Tom that they're on camera at the exorcist steps. So when she tosses him down the steps later, we know she's going to get caught because they record these things.
I kept waiting for. I went back because I was like, "Oh, wait! The camera, the camera." Oh, she never said anything about the camera. I thought that would come
She
back into
didn't
play.
know. She didn't know. Tom knew, and the camera exists. So we know she's going to get caught because they've had those cameras there for 41 years.
Oh, maybe they forgot to change the batteries 2 years ago.
Right? Maybe. And so that's the question is she got away with murdering Bryce, the conspiracy, for 25 plus years, but she's going to go down for this one. She also got away with killing Alex, and Tom got away with killing Alexandra. Except did he really? Because he was consumed by guilt this whole time. Okay. And did it make him a more horrible person? I don't think so. The horrible was all within.
He was born horrible. Did
Yes.
he actually erase the manuscript, or did he just say he was going to?
I don't know.
Because that
We
could
don't
be
know.
another smoking gun.
That is another smoking gun because it's all about the living with the guilt. And oh my gosh. She's gone to a writer's conference again. Meanwhile, I'm down there murdering. And she and I had hooked up and 2 years earlier than we said we did. So, what surprised you most when you went backward through the timeline? We talked about one that I thought she killed her dad, and you thought so too, because he drowned when she was a teenager.
So I almost exclusively read thrillers now because I sometimes can't read what I'm writing. And so I have to stay in different lanes. And so I pretty much have been reading thrillers for just years on end now. And kind of they palate cleanse for me. So it can be a little difficult to surprise me these days because I just love the thriller structure so much. And I love seeing the little plans. Again, I do think the repetition in the reverse chronology made it so that there were fewer surprises than there would have been were it chronological and we didn't know those were significant moments.
Yeah, I agree. It was repetitive. I thought I had a couple good surprises. One was that Tom was such a horrible person before he even killed Bryce,
I
and
already
that it
knew
was
it.
Tom who pushed for it. The second was that Wendy didn't kill her dad, her mom did. The
Yeah.
third is that she didn't kill the PI from Texas. I thought for sure she offed that PI. Another one was that she killed Alex to advance Tom's career. It wasn't because he had like dirt on her.
So with the PI one, I was waiting to see whether the block of gold reappeared or not. And
Me
that's how
too.
we would know.
I
Yeah.
know. I was too waiting to see that block of gold, and it's just like, nope, I'm gonna tell him now. Maybe he'll come out later because we don't know, because we never get the future here. And then I was also surprised that Wendy never told Tom that she'd killed Alex. She did it for him. I would have thought that the doting academic wife would have said, what do you mean you're not applying for the head of the department role? I freaking killed the guy.
I get the sense that by that time, because he says a lot in the earlier chapters, which is late in the time, that she has known him for so long now. And I
Mhm.
think by that time, she has already lost trust in him.
That's true. She couldn't admit to it because even when she sets up this promotion on a platter, he won't pick it up, but she doesn't want to give him any ammo either because he'll probably write like a
Absolutely,
terrible,
100%.
crappy purple prose novel about it.
Yes.
All right. Does this story need Tom's POV and how would it be different if it didn't have it?
Wow, does it need it?
Yeah, I know. It's got it and it didn't endear me to Tom
It actually made it a slower read for me to have to go through him.
because some of the scenes you saw overlap.
Exactly. Like, right away, despite it being a male narrator, I didn't get the sense this was a true dual point of view. It felt very Wendy. This
Yes.
felt like
I was
Wendy's
surprised when we went to
story.
Tom's. I'm like, what do we need him
Yes.
for? Yes.
Yes, it was her story. We were sympathetic to her. We understood why she behaved this way. We saw her background. We saw parts of her childhood and her family that we didn't see for Tom.
I agree. And so I think the only reasons that we needed to hear Tom at all was Tom was the one who told us that Emily's legal name was Annabelle. He knew that because he had hired her and that she'd signed some forms to order some books for
But
something.
that kind of stuff can be conveyed
It
through
could be.
dialogue. Yeah.
We also found out that he killed Alexandra. So I don't know if we ever would have put that together. Did it matter? I don't know.
I mean, I kind of already assumed he did.
Yeah,
From
he
right when
did.
they planted it, it was kind of clear. And
And then the last part that we got from Tom's POV was the school chaperone had told just Tom and not Wendy. They record these because a previous person had fallen down the steps and had injured themselves and had sued the place. And the people who owned the property were worried that more people were going to fall down these stairs to recreate scenes in The Exorcist. But if Wendy had known that, she wouldn't have planned to kill him there. So we needed that to come in somehow. And so how else could they have got it in if we did
I know
Tom
I'm
here?
already editing this book now, but I mean, it's
I
already
know, me
published,
too.
right? But sometimes we think, oh, that could have very easily been interstitially placed moments of Tom's POV. It could just say Tom, like, because he has it in sections 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, Tom, and then he gets just one little bit. And in fact, that would have cured both the pacing of it and the likability problem. And I think that would have tightened it right up where it was like, oh, those little bits actually pique our interest instead of being repetitious.
I agree. In a traditionally chronological novel, we often build up to a climax and a resolution. Because we're going backwards, how was climax and turning point changed? And do we think this book still had a climax? And if so, where was it?
This is the one question that I had trouble. I thought about this one for a long time and I myself am torn on it. I'm curious what you say because I want to say no.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what's a real turning point in this.
Yeah.
Because the turning point was when she pushed him down the stairs at The Exorcist, but that was in like the first 10% of the book. And so it's like, that's no place to put a climax. But probably the turning point was when they met up again, agreed to have a secret affair, and started planning Bryce's murder. That's probably it. Because that's what set them on the course from being like normal people who worked regular jobs and were not murderers into people who had an extra $10 million but had the guilt of being murderers.
If this were any other genre, I would say 100%. However, as a thriller, we do have some certain conventions where we do expect the twist to come at those turning points. There is no more twist left when we start at the end with all information given.
Yeah. I mean, the twist was she didn't know about the cameras, but Tom knew and he tried to warn her, and she waved it off as more drunk ramblings.
Perhaps that is the twist.
I guess, yeah. I think so. I think it is because I was really happy to see that the chaperone had specifically mentioned it to him. And then I went back and saw that he tried telling her, it's just like, we're always being watched. The chaperone told us we're being watched. And it's just like, really, you're being recorded. I think that was probably the point of no return is when they're like, let's kill Bryce. And then everything that came after that was they couldn't stop that train. And if you imagine this novel being told forward in chronological order from the 80s up to 2023, how different would it have been? And what would be gained or lost?
I might have had more satisfaction with Tom's death because there was a real drive for her to successfully kill him for me right from page one. Like, even from the first sentence, I was like, ooh, I like this. And so I was like just waiting for it to happen. And then the payoff was at the end of that first lengthy chapter. And so perhaps if it was told in reverse, I would have, or even if it did one of those tricky jump forwards and then all the way to the back again. Actually, I wouldn't have minded that. 2023, and then we jumped back and started over. I probably, yeah, may over if I didn't know if she successfully killed him. They split that chapter. Here I am chopping it up, editing it
Yeah,
again.
no, it's like she gives him a shove and we don't
We
know
don't know. And then it
because
goes
it was
back.
unsuccessful the previous time. Yeah.
That would have been that one question that I would be dying to know.
And you're like all through all this stuff. Oh, they're meeting when they're kids. And
Yes.
no, don't ever call
Yes,
me.
because
Yeah.
Lee Child, he always says the thing that gets a reader is ask a question and then don't answer it. Make them
Yeah.
wait for it, and they will keep reading your book. And so even that one question, I probably would have been like, oh, keep turning that page or listening to that audio book on double time to get to.
That's right. Yeah. I like to listen to them faster too, because it's like, get it done, get to it. So and then you're like, wait, what was that? I got to go back. All right. That's what I had for questions. Do you have anything else you'd like to add about Kill Your Darlings?
Yeah, there was one thing that really bugged me that even as just a writer of color or reader of color is that he did this thing that I am so exhausted of. And I'm wondering why it's still happening. It's where writers use white characters as the default. He doesn't name any of the races. We just assume everybody's white until he meets a person of color. And then he begins naming them by the color. And he literally calls this one woman the Asian woman, the Asian woman. And so that part definitely
Well,
is
the black academic also had
the
to work
black
harder.
academic.
Yes. It's just like now that you mention it, the black academic had to be named.
Right. And so these are things that is just this 2025. We should know better at this point. It's like name them all or don't name them. Pick one convention. For me, I like to name them all. I do a lot of reversals in mine. I will definitely call out the whiteness and make Asian the default since I am an Asian writer. So there's a lot of ways to handle it that doesn't fall back on just these old, tired, whitewashed, racially just blah tropes.
Absolutely. Agree 100%. So, authors out there today, think about how you're describing your characters. And are you only naming the non white characters by race? Maybe name everybody. At least think about what you're choosing. All right. Anything else, Sophia, before we wrap it up?
I've had a great time. It really enjoyed reading books that play with time as always, and I will keep reading them, and I hope you guys keep writing them as well.
Thank you. And we would love to read your time twisty one in the near future. Please do keep us in the loop. Let us know how that goes. And for all the viewers, thank you so much for joining us. Every week I post videos about writing, editing, and the writing life. So like, subscribe, share, and we'll see you next week. Thank you so much.